I never imagined that at 72, my heart could shatter like it did when I was a little girl, abandoned on the playground by kids who promised to wait. That raw sting of betrayal, the flush of shame, it doesn't fade with age. It just hides behind wrinkles and weary smiles. My name is Clara Bennett, and I'll never forget the harsh fluorescent lights of the Frankfurt airport, the echo of announcements in multiple languages, and the bitter taste of betrayal that morning. We were supposed to be heading to our long-planned family getaway, a chance to bond, or so I thought. I was there with my daughter, Sophie, her husband, Nathan, and my granddaughters, Lily and Sophia. I was the extra wheel, the built-in nanny, but I clung to it because it meant I mattered, even if just a little. As we waited at the gate, that familiar urgency hit me, the kind that comes with getting older, the kind no one talks about but everyone judges. My hands tightened around the handle of my rolling suitcase, the plastic warm from my grip, as I tried to push the feeling away. I tried to ignore it, focusing on the girls' giggles as they played with their tablets, their little fingers tapping brightly colored screens. Sophie was scrolling through her emails, always so busy with her job, her brow slightly furrowed in concentration. Nathan was pacing, checking his watch every few seconds, his footsteps sharp against the tiled floor. "Excuse me," I said softly, my voice barely above a whisper, afraid to disrupt the fragile balance. "I need to use the restroom quickly. I'll be right back." Sophie glanced up, her eyes impatient, the airport lights reflecting in them. "Make it fast, Mom. The line's moving soon." Her words landed like a quiet slap, but I smiled anyway, nodding as I turned away. I hurried away, my legs aching from the walk, the bathroom doors seeming miles apart in that vast terminal. The place was spotless, cold tiles underfoot sending a chill up my spine, the air thick with disinfectant, and hurried strangers brushing past me without a second glance. I washed my hands slowly, the cool water running over my fingers, splashing some on my face to steady myself, praying I wouldn't take too long. What if they boarded without me? The thought flickered, but I pushed it down. Families don't do that. I rushed back, my heart pounding with fear of holding them up, my breath coming in short bursts. But where I reached the gate, it was deserted. No Sophie, no Nathan, no girls, just empty seats and a few stragglers boarding other flights, their voices distant echoes. Panic rose in my chest, hot and tight, like a hand squeezing my throat. I scanned the area, my suitcase feeling heavier than ever, its wheels rattling faintly as I pulled it closer. Faces blurred around me, business travelers with briefcases, families rushing by hand in hand, but none were mine. I fumbled for my phone, my fingers trembling so badly I nearly dropped it. There it was, a text from Sophie glowing on the screen. "Mom, we couldn't wait. Nathan was getting stressed, said it was for the best. Catch the next flight. See you there. XOXO." The words blurred through my tears, each one piercing deeper. The plane had taxied away without me, its engines a fading roar in the distance. I collapsed into a nearby chair, the hard plastic digging into my back, cold and unforgiving, feeling every one of my 72 years crash down like a wave. My chest heaved as I tried to breathe steadily, the airport's chill seeping into my bones. No call to check if I was okay, no apology, just gone. My granddaughter Lily had posted a story online already, a photo from inside the plane, her and Sophia making funny faces, Sophie smiling in the background, the cabin lights soft on their happy expressions. No mention of me. I was erased, just like that, as if I'd never been part of the frame. The worst wasn't the abandonment, it was knowing it wasn't a mistake. Nathan always saw me as an inconvenience, the old lady who slowed things down, his sighs and eye rolls a constant undercurrent at family gatherings. Sophie invited me only because I could watch the girls, freeing her and Nathan for their couple time, those stolen moments they cherished more than my presence. Sophia, the younger one, sent a quick voice note, her small voice tinny through the speaker. "Grandma, Mommy says you'll meet us later. I miss you already." Her sweet voice broke me, a fresh wave of tears stinging my eyes, but no one else reached out. The airport buzzed on, indifferent. Flights to Berlin, Madrid, New York announced overhead, voices overlapping in a cacophony that made me feel even smaller. I sat there, invisible, wondering if I even had a place anymore, my hands clasped tightly in my lap to stop the shaking. And in that hollow moment, something shifted deep inside, a quiet crack in the armor I'd worn for years. The tears stopped, drying on my cheeks in the dry airport air, and I whispered to myself, my voice barely audible over the announcements, "Clara, you can stay broken here, or you can choose different." No one was coming back, but maybe, just maybe, that was my freedom, a door I never knew was waiting to open. If my story resonates with you, if you've ever felt this ache, subscribe to the channel and join me for more like it. We're in this together. The agent at the counter noticed my distress as I approached, ticket in hand, asking about the next flight, my voice cracking slightly despite my efforts to sound composed. She was kind, mid-40s, with a name tag reading Helga, her uniform crisp and her expression softening as she looked at me. "Mrs. Bennett, I'm sorry about your situation," she said gently, typing into her computer, the keys clicking softly. "The next one is in 3 hours, but wait a moment." Her eyes lit up, a small smile breaking through. "You're eligible for our senior solo traveler promotion. We've had a last-minute spat open for a luxury retreat, all-inclusive, 1 month at a premier resort in the Maldives. It's for passengers like you, traveling alone unexpectedly. Would you be interested?" I stared at her, disbelief washing over me like a cool breeze, my mind racing. Was this real? A scam? The Maldives. Nathan had raved about it for years, showing me brochures of overwater bungalows and crystal-clear lagoons during family dinners, always saying it was out of our league, his tone dismissive, as if such dreams weren't for people like me. My hand went to my throat instinctively, feeling the rapid pulse there. I thought of calling Sophie, of begging for guidance, my fingers hovering over the phone, but the memory of her text stopped me cold, that casual dismissal replaying in my mind. If I reached out, it'd be more blame, more, "Mom, you're always complicating things," her voice sharp in my imagination. So, with a deep breath that filled my lungs with the airport's stale air, I nodded, surprising even myself. "Yes, I'll take it." Helga beamed, printing a new boarding pass, a golden-edged ticket that felt like a lifeline, warm and substantial in my trembling hands. "Your flight leaves tomorrow. Tonight, complimentary stay at the airport hotel. Congratulations, Mrs. Bennett. This could be your fresh start." As I walked away, suitcase in tow, its wheels humming softly on the floor, a small spark ignited inside me, flickering against the darkness of the day. For once, I wasn't chasing approval. I was choosing me, and the thought both terrified and thrilled me in equal measure. At the hotel, a sleek modern place with plush carpets muffling my steps and soft lighting casting gentle shadows, I checked in under the golden ticket's privileges, the receptionist smiling warmly as she handed me the keycard. The room was luxurious, king bed with crisp white sheets that smelled faintly of lavender, minibar stocked with treats I'd never splurge on, a view of the runway lights twinkling like distant stars against the darkening sky. I unpacked slowly, my fingers lingering on each item, laying out my simple clothes, a floral dress I'd bought on sale years ago and never worn, sensible shoes scuffed from daily use, a cardigan for chilly evenings that reminded me of quieter times. Staring at my reflection in the full-length mirror, the glass cool under my fingertips, I saw the lines etched by years of putting others first, the deep creases around my eyes from smiling through pain, the divorce at 55 that left me raising Sophie alone, scraping by on a teacher's pension that barely covered the bills. Nathan entered our lives when Sophie was 28, charming at first with his sales job and easy smile that won everyone over, but underneath was a sharpness, a way of dismissing me with a glance or a curt word. "Clara, you don't need to hover," he'd say during family dinners, his tone laced with irritation, fork pausing mid-air as if my presence interrupted his flow.
Sophie changed too, pulling away gradually, prioritizing their life over ours, her calls becoming shorter, visits rarer. I became the default babysitter, grateful for scraps of time with the girls, their hugs the only warmth in a cooling relationship. But now, here I was, alone in a fancy hotel, the silence of the room wrapping around me like a blanket, and it felt liberating? The word surprised me, bubbling up unbidden, as I sat on the edge of the bed, the mattress dipping softly under my weight. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, not Sophie, but a notification from Lily's social media, the screen lighting up the dim room. Another plain selfie captioned "Adventure begins" with emojis of palm trees and hearts. No tag for me. The sting hit again, sharp in my chest, but I set the phone down face first, its glow fading. Dinner in the hotel restaurant was solitary but peaceful. Grilled salmon, flaky and warm, fresh salad crisp with a tangy dressing, a glass of white wine that loosened the knot in my shoulders. Families chattered around me, their laughter light and carefree, children spilling crumbs, but I didn't envy them anymore. For the first time, no one expected me to clean up, entertain, or fade into the background, and the quiet felt like a gift. That night, as rain pattered against the window, a gentle rhythm that matched my slowing heartbeat, memories flooded back uninvited. The day Sophie announced her engagement, the room filled with excitement, Nathan pulled me aside in the hallway, his grip firm on my arm. "Clara, we're starting fresh. Don't make this about you." His words, sharp as a knife, had cut deep, leaving a scar I carried silently. I'd smiled through it, always the peacemaker, nodding as if it didn't hurt. But lying in that soft bed, the sheets cool against my skin, I vowed quietly to the empty room, no more. Tomorrow, the Maldives awaited. What if this was my turning point? The question lingered as sleep finally came, restless but hopeful. The morning flight was seamless, priority boarding where staff smiled and guided me gently, a comfortable seat in business class with legroom that eased my aching knees. As the plane lifted off, the engines roaring softly, I watched Germany shrink below, clouds swallowing the past like a thick fog. Hours later, landing in the Maldives felt like entering a postcard, warm air thick with salt and flowers enveloping me as I stepped off, a speedboat waiting to whisk me to the resort, its engine humming over the waves. The staff greeted me with leis of fresh blooms, their fragrance sweet and heady, and chilled coconut water that tasted like pure refreshment. "Welcome, Mrs. Bennet. Your villa is ready," the young man said, his smile genuine. The overwater bungalow was breathtaking, wooden floors smooth under my bare feet, glass panels revealing fish below darting in vibrant schools, a private deck with infinity pool where the water blended seamlessly with the sea. I sent a quick text to Sophie, my fingers hesitating before pressing send. "Arrived safely. Hope your trip is going well." No response came immediately, the silence from my phone a familiar ache, but I stepped onto the deck anyway, the sun warming my skin through my light blouse, waves lapping gently below like a soothing whisper. For a moment I was just Clara, not grandma, not mom, the woman rediscovering her spark, the salt breeze tangling my hair as I closed my eyes and breathed deeply. Walking the beach that afternoon, sand soft and warm between my toes, each step sinking slightly, I felt a mix of awe and isolation, the vast ocean stretching endlessly before me. Couples strolled hand in hand, their murmurs carried on the wind. Children built sandcastles with buckets clanging, their joy uninhibited. I missed the girls' laughter echoing like that, the way Sophia's small hand would slip into mine. But not the role I'd been boxed into, the constant giving without receiving. Back at the villa, I unpacked fully, hanging that floral dress in the closet, its fabric light and flowing, feeling bold as I touched it, a small act of claiming space for myself. Dinner was at the resort's seaside restaurant, lobster bisque rich and creamy, tropical fruits bursting with sweetness, the horizon painted in pinks and oranges that mirrored the warmth spreading in my chest. As I ate, the sea breeze cooling my face, a group of American retirees at a nearby table caught my eye. They were lively, sharing stories over plates of grilled fish, one woman with silver hair laughing heartily, her voice carrying across the open air. She noticed me sitting alone and waved warmly. "Join us, dear. No one should dine alone in paradise." Hesitant, my fork pausing mid-air, I approached, the wooden deck creaking softly under my steps. Her name was Patricia, 75, from Texas, her eyes twinkling with kindness. "I'm Pat. These are my travel buddies. We've all been through the ringer and decided life's too short."
We talked for hours as the stars emerged overhead, about lost loves that still ached on quiet nights, ungrateful kids who took without giving back, second chances that felt like miracles. When I shared the airport story, my voice steadying as I spoke, gasps rippled around the table, forks clattering in surprise. "That's unforgivable," Pat said firmly, reaching across to squeeze my hand, her touch warm and reassuring. "But look at you now, queen of your own island." Their warmth eased the ache that had settled in my bones, like sunlight melting ice. That night, back in my villa, stars blanketing the sky in a dazzling canopy, I journaled by lantern light on the deck. Today, strangers made me feel seen, their kindness a balm I didn't know I needed. Maybe family's not blood, it's who chooses you, day after day. The next day brought adventure, a snorkeling trip where the boat rocked gently on the waves. Mask and fins on, the rubber snug against my skin, I floated in the turquoise water, colorful fish darting around coral like living jewels, the cool embrace of the sea making me feel weightless and alive. It was exhilarating, my body remembering how to move freely, lungs filling with regulated breaths through the snorkel. Back on shore, salt drying on my skin in itchy patterns, Pat's group invited me to yoga at sunset on the beach, mats spread on the sand, still warm from the day. As we stretched, breathing in sync with the crashing waves, tension melted away from my shoulders, a slow release I'd carried for years. But my phone remained silent in my bag, no word from home, the lack of notifications a quiet reminder. By evening, as the sky deepened to indigo, a message finally came from Sophie. "Mom, where are you? The girls are asking. Nathan says this is ridiculous." Anger flared hot in my veins, my grip tightening on the phone. "Ridiculous? After what they did?" I replied calmly, fingers deliberate. "I'm in the Maldives on a surprise trip. Safe and happy." Her response was swift, popping up almost immediately. "You ditched us? Selfish much." The words echoed Nathan's influence, that familiar bite, and for a moment, doubt crept in. Had I overreacted? But I didn't reply, instead joining Pat for cocktails on the terrace, the clink of glasses and easy laughter drowning out the noise in my head. "Family drama?" she asked gently, her eyes knowing. I nodded, sipping the sweet tang of pineapple. "Let them stew. You've earned this." Her words settled over me like permission. That small act, not begging for forgiveness, not explaining myself, felt like my first real stand, a quiet power surging through me. A minor revenge, perhaps, in showing I could thrive without them, the thought both guilty and empowering. Over the next days, the routine settled into something comforting. Morning walks along the shore where the waves tickled my ankles, spa treatments with hot stone massages melting years of stress from my back, the oils aromatic and soothing, group outings filled with shared stories and laughter. One afternoon, exploring a local market, the air rich with spices and fresh fish, I bought a seashell necklace, simple strands of polished shells that caught the light, but mine, chosen just for me. Wearing it against my collarbone, cool and grounding, I felt adorned, not overlooked, a small smile creeping as I caught my reflection in a shop window. Flashbacks intruded during quiet moments, like when the sun dipped low and shadows lengthened.
remembering Sophie's wedding, the venue fragrant with flowers, Nathan's toast ringing out, to new beginnings without the baggage. He'd glanced at me then, smirking faintly over his glass, the words hanging in the air like smoke. I laughed it off politely, clapping with the crowd, but it festered deep inside, a wound that never fully healed. Now, sipping a mango smoothie by the pool, the fruit sweet and cold on my tongue, I reflected slowly, why did I accept so little for so long, shrinking to fit their expectations? Pat shared her story one evening over dinner, widowed at 60, kids distant and demanding, how she traveled solo and rebuilt piece by piece. "You teach people how to treat you," she said softly, her voice carrying the weight of experience. Her words stuck, echoing in my mind long after. Tension built when Nathan called that night, my phone vibrating insistently on the villa table. "Clara, this stunt is embarrassing. Come home now." His voice dripped condescension through the line, loud enough that I held the phone away slightly. "Stunt? You left me at the airport," I shot back, surprising myself with the strength in my tone, my free hand clenching the railing. Silence stretched. Then, "We had no choice," he muttered defensively. "You always hold us back." The line cut deep, reopening old scars, but I ended the call abruptly, heart racing as I stared at the dark sea. Reflection followed in the quiet. His words were his truth, not mine. I wasn't the problem, they were, and acknowledging that felt like shedding a heavy coat. But what if they never apologized? Could I walk away for good? The resort hosted a bonfire that evening on the beach, flames crackling and popping, casting dancing shadows on everyone's faces. Stories around the flames, tales of heartbreak that drew sympathetic nods, triumph that sparked cheers. I shared more, my voice steady over the roar of the fire, the heat warming my skin. Applause followed, gentle and encouraging. "You're inspiring," a young staffer said as he added wood, his smile bright in the firelight. Back on shore, salt drying on my skin in itchy patterns, Pat's group invited me to yoga at sunset on the beach, mats spread on the sand still warm from the day. As we stretched, breathing in sync with the crashing waves, tension melted away from my shoulders, a slow release I'd carried for years. But my phone remained silent in my bag, no word from home, the lack of notifications a quiet reminder. By evening, as the sky deepened to indigo, a message finally came from Sophie. "Mom, where are you? The girls are asking. Nathan says this is ridiculous." Anger flared hot in my veins, my grip tightening on the phone. "Ridiculous? After what they did?" I replied calmly, fingers deliberate. "I'm in the Maldives on a surprise trip, safe and happy." Her response was swift, popping up almost immediately. "You ditched us? Selfish much." The words echoed Nathan's influence, that familiar bite, and for a moment doubt crept in. Had I overreacted? But I didn't reply, instead joining Pat for cocktails on the terrace, the clink of glasses and easy laughter drowning out the noise in my head. "Family drama?" she asked gently, her eyes knowing. I nodded, sipping the sweet tang of pineapple. "Let them stew. You've earned this." Her words settled over me like permission. That small act, not begging for forgiveness, not explaining myself, felt like my first real stand, a quiet power surging through me. A minor revenge, perhaps, in showing I could thrive without them, the thought both guilty and empowering. Over the next days, the routine settled into something comforting. Morning walks along the shore where the waves tickled my ankles, spa treatments with hot stone massages melting years of stress from my back, the oils aromatic and soothing, group outings filled with shared stories and laughter. One afternoon, exploring a local market, the air rich with spices and fresh fish, I bought a seashell necklace, simple strands of polished shells that caught the light, but mine, chosen just for me. Wearing it against my collarbone, cool and grounding, I felt adorned, not overlooked, a small smile creeping as I caught my reflection in a shop window. Flashbacks intruded during quiet moments, like when the sun dipped low and shadows lengthened. remembering Sophie's wedding, the venue fragrant with flowers, Nathan's toast ringing out, "To new beginnings without the baggage." He'd glanced at me then, smirking faintly over his glass, the words hanging in the air like smoke. I laughed it off politely, clapping with the crowd, but it festered deep inside, a wound that never fully healed. Now, sipping a mango smoothie by the pool, the fruit sweet and cold on my tongue, I reflected slowly, why did I accept so little for so long, shrinking to fit their expectations? Pat shared her story one evening over dinner, widowed at 60, kids distant and demanding, how she traveled solo and rebuilt piece by piece. "You teach people how to treat you," she said softly, her voice carrying the weight of experience. Her words stuck, echoing in my mind long after. Tension built when Nathan called that night, my phone vibrating insistently on the villa table. "Clara, this stunt is embarrassing. Come home now." His voice dripped condescension through the line, loud enough that I held the phone away slightly. "Stunt? You left me at the airport," I shot back, surprising myself with the strength in my tone, my free hand clenching the railing. Silence stretched. Then, "We had no choice," he muttered defensively. "You always hold us back." The line cut deep, reopening old scars, but I ended the call abruptly, heart racing as I stared at the dark sea. Reflection followed in the quiet. His words were his truth, not mine. I wasn't the problem, they were, and acknowledging that felt like shedding a heavy coat. But what if they never apologized? Could I walk away for good? The resort hosted a bonfire that evening on the beach, flames crackling and popping, casting dancing shadows on everyone's faces. Stories around the flame, but reflection quelled it slowly as I sat on the deck watching waves roll in. No, this was self-care, not spite, this time for healing wounds they'd inflicted. I replied simply, "Looks fun. Enjoy." Short, unbound, the message sent with a steady hand. That evening, a storm rolled in, thunder rumbling like distant anger, lightning flashing across the water. Alone on the deck under the overhang, rain mixing with tears on my cheeks, cool drops splattering, I confronted the pain head-on. Years of invisibility, from my ex-husband's affairs that shattered our home to Sophie's indifference that chipped away daily. Why beg for love that had to be earned through sacrifice? The storm passed as quickly as it came, leaving clear skies washed clean, the air fresh and renewed. Next day, a breakthrough washed over me like the morning sun. I joined a painting class on the beach, easels set up with the sea as backdrop, brushstrokes capturing the lagoon's shifting blues on canvas. My piece, abstract waves swirling from dark to light, symbolized turmoil turning to peace, the paint still wet and vibrant under my fingers. Pat praised it warmly when I showed her. "That's you, Clara, resilient, beautiful in your strength." Tension eased into hope, a quiet settling in my soul. Yet a nagging voice whispered, "What if fame finds me here, changing everything?" Word spread about my story among guests, whispers following me during meals. A blogger approached one morning over coffee, her notebook open. "Mind if I share your tale online? It's empowering, truly." I agreed cautiously, my heart fluttering with uncertainty. The post went live that afternoon, "Abandoned Grandma Finds Paradise," with photos of the resort glowing. Comments flooded in almost immediately, support from strangers, shared pains that made me tear up reading them. "You're my hero," one read, the words warming me more than the sun. Sophie saw it somehow, calling furiously that evening. "Mom, everyone's talking. Nathan's pissed. You're making us look bad." Her voice rose, edged with panic. "Look bad? You left me," I retorted firmly, standing taller on the villa deck. "Deal with it." Her silence was telling, a long pause before she hung up. That small reveal, a clue to their discomfort echoing back, felt satisfying, my turn at reclaiming the narrative. Reflection came later as stars emerged, power in truth, in no longer hiding the hurt. The viral wave grew steadily, like the tide rising. Local news picked it up soon after. A reporter interviewed me on the beach, the sand warm underfoot, waves providing a rhythmic backdrop. "How does abandonment lead to this?" she asked, microphone steady. "It forced me to choose myself," I said, voice clear despite the nerves fluttering in my stomach. The piece aired, views soaring overnight. Strangers messaged words of encouragement. "My mom needs this courage. Thank you." Resort staff treated me like royalty, upgraded meals with extra care, private tours where guides shared hidden spots. Nathan texted sharply one morning, "This media circus is humiliating. Stop." The words sharp, charged, memorable in its cruelty, stinging like salt in a cut. I ignored it, pocketing the phone, joining a sunset cruise instead, where dolphins leaped nearby in graceful arcs, symbolizing freedom I was tasting fully. Pat toasted with sparkling water. "To new chapters," her glass clinking mine. Tension mounted gradually with Sophie's plea a few days later, her text simple. "Come home, Mom. The girls need you." Guilt tugged hard, images of their faces flashing, Lily's gap-toothed smile, Sophia's shy hugs, but I reflected in the quiet of my villa. They needed the old me, the doormat who always said yes. Not anymore, not after this awakening. But a concrete proof emerged, shaking my resolve just when I felt steady. Sorting old emails one quiet afternoon, the villa fan whirring softly overhead, I found an old invoice from Nathan, forwarded accidentally years ago during the family financial discussion. Invoice number 3924, $8,750, dated 05/22/2021, for home renovations. It hit like a wave crashing. He'd used my loan for their house addition, promising repayment that never came, the money gone without a word. Specific data staring back, the amount that could have eased my own struggles, the date etched clearly, proof of exploitation I'd buried deep. At that moment, holding the phone, my hands steady despite the anger rising, this object fueled my fire. "No more," I whispered to the empty room, resolve hardening. Confrontation loomed heavy. I called Sophie that evening, the ringtone stretching long. "Remember that loan? It's time to discuss." She stammered, caught off guard. "Mom, Nathan handled it. It was ages ago." His voice grumbled in the background, audible. "Tell her to drop it. She's old, forgets things." Memorable barb, stinging with dismissal, but it only strengthened me. Reflection followed as the sun set in fiery hues. Their words exposed the rot beneath the surface, the patterns I'd ignored too long. I dove deeper into resort activities to clear my mind, scuba diving where I felt weightless underwater, bubbles rising as I explored reefs, mirroring the emotional release bubbling up. Days passed in a comforting rhythm, tension from sporadic home messages that I now read with detachment, reflection in journaling each night by candlelight, pages filling with honest truths. Befriending a young couple during a group dinner became a gentle highlight. They shared their own family strains, and I advised softly, "Don't wait to be valued, speak up early." Their gratitude, eyes wide and thankful, healed something small inside me. Then the climax approached. What if I extended my stay forever, leaving the past fully behind? Viral fame peaked suddenly. International outlets featured me in articles that popped up on my phone. "Forgotten elder becomes icon," headlines read, invitations pouring in for speaking gigs and sponsorships that felt surreal. Nathan exploded in a voicemail left late one night. "You're destroying our family with this nonsense. Act your age." Charged, quotable, his third sharp intervention, voice booming with frustration. Sophie begged soon after in a tearful call, "Please, Mom, come back. We need you." Climax hit during a group hike up a gentle trail, lush greenery brushing my arms, phone ringing mid-stride as the ocean view unfolded below. "We miss you," she said, voice cracking with emotion. Nathan grabbed it abruptly. "Clara, enough games. Get home now." I paused, breath steady despite the height, overlooking the endless ocean sparkling under the sun. "No, I'm staying." The words came out firm, and I hung up, the phone silent in my hand. The turn, full control regained, a weight lifting as the group cheered my resolve unknowingly. Reflection flooded in waves as we descended, years of accepting crumbs, now feasting on self-worth that tasted sweeter than any fruit here. Back at the villa that night, I celebrated quietly with Pat's group, fireworks over the water bursting in colors that matched my inner joy. Epilogue began gently, transformation clear in every step. I started a blog from the resort, sharing stories that poured out easily now. Homeward bound weeks later, but changed profoundly, stronger in ways I felt in my bones. At the airport, echoes of the opening assaulted me, the harsh lights, echoing announcements, but now I walked through empowered, head high. Family waited at arrivals, Sophie teary-eyed, dabbing at her face, Nathan subdued, avoiding my gaze, the girls excited, bouncing on their toes. "Grandma, you're famous!" Lily hugged fiercely, her small arms tight. Apologies flowed haltingly. "We were wrong," Sophie whispered, voice thick. Nathan added quietly, "I see now, you deserve better." Forgiveness granted with open heart, but boundaries set firmly. I'll visit on my terms, when it feels right for me. Life shifted in subtle, beautiful ways. More family time filled with genuine effort, but I traveled often on my own terms, discovering new places. Anchorline. The heart mends, but remembers its worth. If you've felt this betrayal, comment your story below. We heal together. And if my journey moved you, subscribe to the channel and stay for more. You're part of this now.